Welcome back to One of the Trenches podcast. I'm Johnny Jones. He's Patches Kaplan. We're here today to recap the quarterfinal of the college football playoff and then preview the semifinal. First of all, I just want to say Happy New Year. Patches, how we doing today?
Johnny, I'm doing good. That was probably one of the best stretches of football that I've
It was
seen in a
awesome.
long time. It
Awesome.
was every game was good. Some people will critique the Oregon Texas Tech game a little bit. I thought it was great in its own. Yeah, the Indiana Bama game, but I thought it was great. I thought it was a lot of fun to watch. They weren't boring games. They were just great football. Just great.
Yeah,
football.
Even in a blowout, there's just a lot to be, assessed and looked at and delved into. But the funny thing is, there's 4 games, and we were together for the 2 worst ones. We watched those 2 middle ones together. Both of them weren't that competitive, but still, just like you're saying, still very just telling games from the teams that played. But let's start on New Year's Eve. Number 10 Miami playing number 2 Ohio State in the Goodyear Cotton Bowl. Obviously, 24-14 upset. Miami just pulls off a crazy one. Unbelievable game. Where do you want to start there, Patch?
I want to start with our homebody in Ryan Day. An absolute terrible performance out of him. He screamed nervousness. His play calls were incredibly predictable. For someone who's supposed to be an offensive guru and who has learned from the best, and Urban Meyer and Chip Kelly and all these different people, I'm blown away time and time again with how much he underperforms in some of the biggest games. It didn't take much. It really didn't to win that game. But when the going gets tough against Ohio State, and this is what people always say, when the going gets tough, when a team says, hey, we're going to run the ball down your throat, when you stuff the box, we're going to have enough talent to throw it for a first down, and we're going to win the game. They do it every single time against Ohio State. Ohio State cannot, in the biggest moments, stop the run. It's incredibly, incredibly embarrassing. But I just thought Ryan Day called an absolutely terrible game, Johnny.
Yeah, I agree. And, it starts at the top. That's on him. But at the same time, it doesn't make sense to me. If Brian Hartline's on the sideline, how doesn't he call that game? I know they say because he took the South Florida job, it was going to be too much. But if he's standing on that sideline, he's got to call that game. If he's been the one calling the whole season, especially with a young quarterback, Julian saying, redshirt freshman, if they've been that duo the whole year, he's got to call that game or he's got to get off the sideline. That's my opinion. I don't know what you think about that, but I thought that was just crazy to me.
Yeah, I don't mind the idea. So you have to have a little bit of confidence in what you do. If you are confident enough in what you're doing, then you could say, hey, I know this team good enough that we can switch out our offensive coordinator to me, and I'm going to call just as good, if not a better game. You have to have a certain level of confidence. You also have to back that up. I thought all year it's easy in hindsight in 2020 to look back on Ohio State season. They didn't do anything that overly impressed me. Their win against Texas aged well. Their win against Michigan played out, here and there, good game against Washington. But, they really didn't have, anything that I was overly impressed by. They played good against Indiana. They lost the game against Indiana. But, the offense was so incredibly predictable. Run it on first down, short pass on second down, over the middle to Jeremiah Smith on third down. Incomplete, turn over the ball. And, there was no zazz. And I could tell if you watched Ryan Day's first initial interview, Johnny, first thing he says is, we've had a long layoff that doesn't do teams good. And on top of that, we've spent a lot of time and resources on making sure that these guys are prepped, ready to go. We need to come out hot. We need to come out fast. In that moment, I knew that they were in the wrong mindset. There was nervousness. I'm just very surprised how they lost. I thought an offense like that would be able to compete pound for pound, but absolutely terrible job. Disappointing season for Ryan Day.
Yeah, I do want to give some credit to Matt Patricia. That defense played well. Carson Beck under 150 yards. If you told me going into the game that Malachi Toney was going to have under 20 yards receiving, I was like, oh, dude, this game's over. Yeah. Ohio State's defense kind of stood on its head, but I don't want to bury the lead. The game came down to Miami's defense. Man, does that pass rush so elite. Ruben Bain-Jumi and Akeem Messidor are just freaks. They're these just ginormous guys that can just move, 4-4 guys getting after the quarterback. Mm-hmm. Julian Sain was nervous all day. 2 picks kind of That's what the game came down to. That pick six was
It was
hard to
one of the
watch.
worst I've ever seen.
That was
Yeah, that was
like
bad.
I think I said last week that John Mateers was the worst I'd seen this year, and I think Julian Sand was like, "Okay, hold my beer, I got you. I'm gonna beat
Yeah,
you on that one," because he didn't even like look. He was like, "I'm throwing that no matter what," and that was kind of the game. And I think that's the thing about this Miami team is like this defense is so good. If they can help out their offense a little bit in the turnover department, they're going to be a very hard team to beat in this playoff just because how elite this defense is. The pass rush is vicious. And then on the offensive side of the ball, when you have a defense that good, all you need to do is just shorten the game. And that's what they can do with this offense. Like
yeah,
when they get in pistol and they run duo, they're unbelievable. Because Francis, I always say his name. I always don't say Magawa, but it's Mayowa, I'm pretty sure, but don't hold me to it. Is probably him and Spencer Fano the two best offensive linemen in the whole college football. Like they can just run elite, and they can shorten the game. Mark Fletcher runs angry, and when they can do that, it only comes down to a couple possessions, and that really made Julian saying have to be elite, and he just wasn't.
yeah. No, I think you're spot on. I think that the biggest thing it comes down to the pass rush. Like you said, you make any quarterback uncomfortable. I only think there's probably one team in the playoffs left that can really stop that pass rush and or run against it, and that's Indiana. They're probably hoping for an Oregon win because they know they can get after Dante Moore. But I'll never forget that year that the Patriots were 19-0 going into the Super Bowl, and I think they were a 10-point favorite against the Giants at the time, and I
Yeah,
thought to myself, like, we're screwed, right? Like, as it, at the time I was a Giants fan, surprise, I'm a contrarian. But my dad always said that any
shame.
team that can get after a quarterback will make the quarterback so uncomfortable, make the offense so uncomfortable that their game plan goes out the window. And that's exactly what Miami did. They literally outperformed Ryan Day's platform and Ryan Day's game plan. And hats off to Mario Cristobal, right? They're playing the best that they have all year. I give them a lot of credit. I have no idea how this game is going to go tomorrow. I'm excited to talk about it, but hats off to them, right? When they needed it the most, they drove it down Ohio State's throat and said, "We're bigger, we're stronger, and we're faster than you."
Yeah, that's a thing that I was super impressed because this whole year it's like, can Miami score enough? Can they score enough? We know this defense is elite. And, you know, who are they? They needed that drive. They needed one drive to win the game. And Carson Beck and the boys, Mark Fletcher, Tony, CJ Daniels, who have been high all year, like they showed it like, hey, when you put a nuts on the table, we're going to stand up, and they did. They stood up on business, and it was impressive to watch. It was a great last day of the year to watch a great football game. A little disappointing for an Ohio State fan. Jeremiah Smith got his. Obviously, didn't run the ball effectively enough, but yeah, like Julian Saint, I think is going to be a great quarterback the next 2 years at Ohio State. But it
Yeah.
was really
I just
impressive.
I'm blown away
Miami.
time and time again with how little they have in terms of depth and talent on the offensive line. I think that's just such bad GM general managing.
Yeah.
It's they just don't perform well in those
No,
games, and it starts with the big boys up front.
they're-
Miami. The only reason, obviously, I'm a Miami hater, and I'm not going to change my opinion on Miami and how I didn't think that they deserved to be in. And I stand by the idea that how a team performs in the playoffs has no factor on my feelings of if they should have been in the playoffs. Because I think we'd still be talking about Notre Dame right now. Truthfully, in the path that Miami has, absolutely we'd be talking about Notre Dame playing tomorrow against Ole Miss. And where I'm
yeah.
going,
You know how I feel, but like, yeah.
you shut up, will you? And where I'm going with that is that Miami has a team that's structured for the playoffs, and that should be, and so does Indiana. Is that should be the blueprint for teams? Work on the inside out, and then get a really good run game, get a really good offensive lineman. I'm telling you, I think O linemen, centers, DTs, and D line are going to be the future of NIL because people are going to try to emulate what Miami did. They're not going to have the flashiest team on earth, but boy, are they going to be a stout team from the inside out. They're going to be heavy. They're going to be strong. They're going to be well conditioned. Just a good team.
Well, kind of like, yeah, to your point, like Ohio State, this offense is built like a fantasy football team. Like you give Carnell Tate, Jeremiah Smith a ton of money. Freshman Bo Jackson's definitely getting his in the financial department, and then Julian Sain, the young quarterback. But like maybe they skimped out in the offensive line because when it came down to it, they were chasing guys all night. And another thing to say is Julian Sain how many hospital passes did he throw? He was trying to get guys smoked.
Yeah,
The
he was trying
second
to murder people.
the second Ruben Bainer Messidor got in his face, he was throwing these eephus balls, and I was like, dude, you're gonna get some guy put in the hospital. But
Yeah,
yeah,
he could not step into it.
what a game, what a game. Moving on, the game we watched, bright and early, first day of the year, noon. We had number 5 Oregon beat number 4 Texas Tech 23-0. I thought this was a very, very impressive win by Oregon. You know, everyone talks about Dante Moore, everyone talks about Kenyon Sadiq, the receiving core, the young running backs, but Oregon's defense really, really impressed me in this game, Patch.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on, Johnny. I think that Oregon played really, really well. They were aggressive. Their D line came to play. Their front seven came to play.
Is
Didn't allow anything really besides 155-yard run, broken play.
yeah,
You
broken play, yeah.
subtract that, and they had 155 total yards offense. It was
Yeah.
incredibly, incredibly impressive. I'm impressed by how they played. I'm not overly impressed by Texas Tech's offense. I thought it was incredibly lackadaisical. There was no urgency. They were leaning on turnovers and they were leaning on everything but actual offensive production. But I thought Oregon played really well. I think they still have some problems. Some penalties, some terrible snaps. They're not able to finish on third down or certain drives.
No.
And they're going to need to correct that. But I thought they played well.
Yeah, I do also think that Texas Tech's defense might have been the best single phase in this playoff. Like, that defense is so good. How much of a freak athlete is David Bailey? A couple times him knocking down passes, that's a big dude getting high.
He's gonna go, probably top 12. Very similar to Derek Brown from Auburn, if you remember Derek Brown.
Yeah, totally.
He's a really good DT, I think, on the Panthers now. But yeah, incredibly talented defense. I'm excited to see
Lee Hunter too. Lee Hunter on the D line too.
Yeah. I'm excited to see what they do. With their offense and their team next year. Obviously it's going to be a buy here, pay here type team where everything's just NIL center. They already got that quarterback from Cincinnati, which how the hell that guy is worth $6 million a year or whatever it may be is just craziness.
I'm a little hesitant on that because he got like $6-7 million. He didn't have a great last back half of the season.
Obviously, they were 6-1 at one point, maybe even 7-1, and then they lost. I think they lost 4 or 5 in a row.
He can sling it, but the back half of the season, he wasn't that great. I don't know if it was a lack of talent in the quarterback transfer portal world, but I feel like it was almost recency bias. We just lost this way. We're going to throw you King Midas money, panic. I don't know. I don't know if he's worth that much money. He's a good quarterback, but that much money was a little crazy.
No, I agree. I thought he was probably a top 5 quarterback in the portal, but not worth that.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for this Oregon team. I thought they looked really great. Definitely stuff to fix on offense. I think that's also, you got to hand it to Jacob Rodriguez and Texas Tech's defense. But just the way Oregon can play defense, the way they can get after the quarterback, and they also have athletes in the secondary. Dorian Finney Jr., Pedialyte guy, man, he was awesome. 3 turnovers? He was a star. Yeah. And then a true freshman. Can you imagine that guy playing high school football last year? If I'm lining up against a guy like that, just gross. And then Dylan Thiemann, All-American last year with Purdue, All-American this year. He's a freak. This defense is really talented. But anything else on this game?
No, I do have to pause us. It is 8:02. For those Stranger Things fans who thought Conformity Gate is real, the episode was not uploaded. There is no bonus episode. I feel sick to my stomach for those of you that are listening. On Kalshi, the odds dropped to a 10% chance that something gets uploaded. This is incredibly disappointing. I convinced myself there was going to be another episode. So it's going to be incredibly hard to rebound here, Johnny, but I feel sick to my stomach because I was really excited.
I'm not a Stranger Things guy. I feel like I missed out on this cultural phenomenon. For the fans of the podcast, if there was one, I've never watched an episode. I was going to watch it. Patches was going to watch it, and we were going to do a side-by-side reaction, which would have been great content. So, I'm sorry. That's a bummer for me.
All right. R.I.P. to Stranger Things in Hawkins. This will go down as one of the weirdest moments in television history. But anyway, we'll
but wait. No. Just to interrupt. A good thing, Hawkins, Indiana, they just got to wait, 30, 40 years and they can see this Kurt Signetti team. Like all those characters are going to be alive and just like really
They're going to
excited.
be
Do
some
you
of the
know
biggest fans.
you know how excited like Steve Harrington's going to be when Indiana
So you
goes on
do
this
know it.
run?
So you do know it.
Dude, how could I not? Also, he's from right down the street, Newburyport. How could I not, dude? It's all over it, every social media. But let's move on to that game.
Yeah,
Number
Indiana
one,
goes to
Indiana,
Alabama. 3 point spread. I think it was 3.5 points.
38-3. This was an ass whooping.
I knew the
Ass.
game was over, Johnny, when Kalen DeBoer's bitch ass did that whole punt, not punt, jump off sides, not jump off sides, jump off sides, punt, timeout, jump off sides, punt, timeout. And Kurt Signetti's defense just didn't even budge. And just dominated the line of scrimmage, made them get a loss of one, turned over the ball.
Yeah. The real takeaway from this game is Austin Mack. Backup quarterback for Bama. We were betting him live anytime touchdown. We came close, man. I'm joking. I'm joking. This Indiana team is just like, what do you say? Like just so good, just so well coached,
so talented.
so clinical, so clinical.
They chip away at teams. They run the ball effectively. They do really, really well in third down. They don't flinch. They don't flinch, and that is incredibly hard to coach. I think that they are lined up for an excellent game against Oregon, another rematch. I think 10 points. It will be lucky on the Oregon side. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. But, I was just blown away by, over 200 yards or nearly 200 yards rushing to Bama's like 55, right? Bama has every athlete in the world and they get 3 total points. 3 points.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think because it's Indiana and because Signetti came from JMU that people are really sleeping on the talent level of this team. Like just offensively, like Omar Cooper, Surratt, Becker, these guys are going to play in the NFL. And then defensively, like Aiden Fish and D'Angelo Pons are all going to get drafted. Like, these guys are really talented. I just think because they came from group of 5 schools or just because of the letters on their helmet, people aren't giving them the respect they deserve. But this team is not only well coached. Like that's the number one thing you say. And I don't want to take anything away from Signetti because he's a great coach. But these guys are also just very talented football players. And when you coach them that well, they execute. They're so good on third down. I don't know. This is like a really great team. I'm very excited for this next coming matchup.
Yeah, I think that truly that this team is one of the better ones that we've seen in the playoffs or in our recent memory, just how quality they are. I think they need to finish the job. I think they're positioned really well against most teams. I think Ole Miss is a weird one that could maybe give them a run in the Natty, but I think they're positioned really, really well to dominate Oregon. We'll talk about that in just a second. But I was just so impressed across the board. Right, they got after the quarterback against a really good offensive line. And then on top of that, they were saying that Bama's defense is top 10 statistically. They dropped 38 points against them.
Yeah, I don't like Bama's
It probably could have been 50 if they wanted to.
Nah, I don't like Bama's defense. I also just think like if you have a good defense, going for that and that play you were talking about that Kurt Signetti got so mad about, that was just like stupid. Don't give him the ball that close. I feel like the game was over right there. But
no, you can't do that.
Moving on, late night game, the Sugar Bowl, all-time game. We had Ole Miss 39, Georgia 34. What was it, 21-12 at the half in Georgia's favor? What a game. Dude, Trinidad Chambliss patch.
Yeah.
Come on.
Dude, he's a guy that can get punched in the face and he just goes back out there. It's unbelievable. Whoops, I'm sorry for those who could hear that. It was unbelievable how much, I don't want to use the same term, doesn't flinch, but Ole Miss just got punched in the mouth and literally just wiped the blood off their lip and just kept coming. It was unbelievable to see that. I thought that game was so over. I remember going into halftime, I looked to our friend Keith and I said, "Are you at all nervous?" He said, "Yeah." And I said, "Why?" Georgia's rolling. And then all it took was one single stop on defense for Ole Miss, and I flipped my whole script and said, "Yeah, you should be nervous." I don't know what it was about that stop, but that game was so infectious for Ole Miss. I think their head coach has got them absolute steaming right now.
Pete Golding. What an in-game coach, Pete Golding. The thing about Chambliss is this, like, Georgia's got a great pass rush. They've got athletes all over the field on defense. But what was so amazing is that, like, he was so calm when the pocket broke down. Like he doesn't care what it takes. If the play's 3 seconds or if the play's 30 seconds, him running around. There was that really crucial 3rd and 7 in the fourth
Yep.
quarter in their end where he just ran probably 2 miles in one play, but he's not freaking out. Like you see a lot of young quarterbacks like looking
Yeah.
around, freaking out. He's just so calm when the pocket breaks down. He has so much faith in his receiving core. Like this receiving core, like I know Harrison Wallace, Penn State guy, he's good. He's not great. They don't have any like elite receivers, but they have a lot of good guys that have great chemistry with Chambliss. Like when he's moving around, they're all watching him. Their eyes are linking up. They're all moving the same direction. And then Kwan Lacey is just such a dog, just such like downhill runner, athlete. This offense is awesome. I do get really scared about their defense. Like they've got that elite linebacker number 4. I'm blanking on his name. That's my bad. But I'm a little scared that their defense it isn't great. They did get a couple stops in that second half, but it does scare me.
No, I think you're spot on. I think that they played hard enough and good enough to stop a very potent Georgia offense.
Yeah,
I don't see what they couldn't do. Let me rephrase. I don't see that they didn't do anything against Georgia that they couldn't do against Miami.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
they're probably the most disadvantaged team to make a natty run, and that says it in the odds as well. I think they're like 7-1 to win the natty. But I am incredibly impressed by how much they were able to come over. Terrible coaching job by Kirby Smart. I think that needs to be talked about, Johnny. The fact that Kirby Smart left Trinidad Chambliss with 59 seconds or a minute and 24 seconds or something like that, and two
Why did
timeouts
go?
to go.
He had that weird fourth down in the second half. Where he went for it like deep in his own territory, and I was like, like
Yeah,
this offense is great. Like I don't know why you giving the offense such great feel. I don't know. Just punt it, make him drive, kill some time. You have the lead. It
yeah,
was a
have some
weird
trust in your
second
team.
half. Yeah, it was a weird
Yeah, it
second
was.
half.
I'm just very surprised at the time management out of Kirby Smart. It was really, really unfortunate. The way that went about. I thought that he kind of lost the game because I would have taken them. I would bet every dollar on Georgia to win that if they went into overtime. And all you had to do was probably kill another 25 seconds on the drive somewhere. You knew you were going to kick a field goal to tie it up. You might as well just burn out the clock and take it into overtime in that situation. But I'm incredibly happy for Pete Golding and Ole Miss. I love to see the fact that very little people have already transferred out. That's amazing to see. They're kind of sticking through it. I thought it was a great game. I thought it was a great game.
Yeah, it was definitely was the best game of the weekend. Like I think like it's like what you said at the beginning of the pod. Like all 4 games, they might have not have been close, all very telling. But if you wanted a barn burner, that game was so fun to watch. But like, let's move on.
Yep.
First game. What do you want to talk about? First game tomorrow. Ole Miss
Wow.
Miami.
Yeah.
I'm excited for this one. I think this is probably phase versus phase. The best matchup is in this game. Ole Miss's offense versus Miami's defense. Um, and I've thought about this game so much coming into this podcast. I really don't know what to say because on one hand, Ole Miss's offense, Trinidad Chambliss, Quan Lacey, Harrison Wallace, so potent. But Miami, like the way they can get after the quarterback is just so elite. And then the other sides of the ball, Miami's offense versus Ole Miss defense, both very unproven. So it's going to be a crazy game. I kind of like Miami just the way they can play defensively, but I
Yeah.
really don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm going back and forth every single time I say it out loud. I'm going to say Ole Miss, and then the next time I talk to someone, I'm going to say Miami. My gut feeling is Ole Miss. I think that there is a team that has enough momentum to get in X play, and that's all you need to score is 22, 24 points against Miami, and I think you're going to be good enough. I don't see a world in which Miami can do a sprint, 100-yard dash with Ole Miss. If they can hold Ole Miss down to 10 or less or 14 or less, this is Miami's game. It really comes down to how good is their defense. Like we talked about, it's going to be interesting. Trinidad Chambliss is an crazy experienced quarterback, but how experienced is he when he's got, 2 DTs in a DN in his face? That's the great equalizer. You never know what you are until that happens.
Yeah, I think Miami's going to be able to run the ball, and I think that's a big key. Just because how effectively they run that duo zone blocking scheme out of the pistol, like I just think they're going to be able to really shorten this game. Like what Ole Miss wants is Ole Miss wants the exact same game they played Georgia, like 39-34. But what Miami, like if Miami can just run the ball, shorten the game, a couple possessions each half, I think their defense can do enough to stop Chambliss and Lacey. I don't know. I like Miami personally in this game. I just think they're very they're built to win the college football playoff. The way they can get after the quarterback. They've got great linebackers, Scroggins, the freshman, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then just run the ball. They've got two elite playmakers on the outside in Tony and CJ Daniels. They really need to come up one or two times in this game. I don't know, like Marcel Reed in that Texas A&M offense was elite all season, and you
Yep.
saw Miami really shut them down. And then we saw them play another elite offense in Ohio State, or what we thought was elite players all around, like Tate
Mhm.
and Smith and Bo Jackson, and they shut them down. So I don't know. I like this Miami's defense.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think you're spot on. I think these are two teams that have been underestimated all year long. I'm incredibly excited to see, we say this every week that this is a telltale game where we're going to learn a lot about both teams following this game. That's what, it means to play each other. But, if Miami's defense comes out here and plays in an elite game and shuts down Ole Miss, you can't argue how elite their defense is. If their
Yeah.
offense comes out and lays an egg, you can then blame the offense. But I think that, the more I talk about this, I'm now kind of leaning towards Miami. I think it's, incredibly close. I'm going to go with Ole Miss simply because I think X plays go a long way. And you string one, maybe two together, it's going to be incredibly hard for Miami to keep up.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm super excited. Thursday night. What a weekend of football we get with, college football Thursday,
Yep.
Friday, NFL, Saturday, Sunday. It's going to be awesome. But let's move on to Friday night's game. I think we both disagree on this game, which is awesome for this
Big
podcast.
time. Big time.
We got number 5 Oregon versus number 1 Indiana. I think this is going to be a great game, and I'm not disrespecting Indiana at all. So I'll let you start, but I am high on the Ducks right now.
Yeah, no, I think that this one's going to be an absolute slaughterhouse. I talked about how I thought Oregon played a really good game against Texas Tech. I think every other team in the playoffs at the time would have played just as good, if not a better game against Texas Tech. There are too many things that are alarming me with how able the Texas Tech defense was to completely
It's the best defense in
squander.
the country.
It is, but they at times they were completely suffocating Oregon, and I don't think that Texas Tech was able to do anything defensively that Indiana can't do defensively.
They have
I
a
think
better
that the
D-line.
running back getting out is a massive problem. Oregon's still kind of injury ridden. I don't think Indiana is going to have any problem running the ball whatsoever. I think Indiana is going to run for well over 180 yards offensively. I think they're going to pass for more than 200, and I don't see a world in which Oregon's able to score as efficiently as they have the last couple games. I'm not looking too much into the game back in September or October, but truly, I think that, Indiana's just playing better football right now. I think that their pass rush is going to suffocate Dante Moore. He doesn't do well in those moments. I think their run game is going to control the clock. I think their D line is better than Oregon's O line, which has some problems. So that's undeniable.
I don't know. Oregon's offense line's good. I don't know what you're talking about.
They had some serious problems. They had up 4 sacks against Texas Tech.
Yeah, but dude, Texas Tech's D line is a lot better than Indiana's.
No.
You agree with that? Lee Hunter and David Bailey.
No, I do.
Best
I do.
1-2 punch in
they
college football
really, really
on
good
a D line.
I don't think it's night and day.
10 million.
I don't think it's night and day.
That's like a $10 million D line right there.
I don't think it's night and day.
And Indiana's second best pass rushers out. That guy, Achilles gone. I feel bad. That was awful.
The way they were able to suffocate Ty Simpson and come after Ty Simpson and shut down an offense.
But that's an overrated offensive line.
You got to look at it like this, though. Is like
you don't believe in Caden Proctor.
Arguably one of the best wide receiver cores and best run offenses in the SEC. It's just telltale sign of what they're going to do to Oregon, Johnny.
Am I crazy?
You might be.
I've been saying this. Alabama's receiving core has been elite all year, and every time I say it, you're like, no, they're not. No, they're not.
I think it was. I think I said the best in the SEC. I don't know if I said elite.
Okay. Oregon's offensive line is good. Emmanuel Pregnon is a first-team All-American, and Texas Tech's defensive line is elite. David Bailey, Lee Hunter is the best 1-2 punch from a defensive line perspective in the entire country. And if you don't believe me, you can look at how much they got paid. That's like a $10 million defensive line. Awesome. You're right about Jordan Davidson. That is a big hit to the Oregon's offense. He broke his clavicle, but he's the second leading rusher on this team. Noah Whittingham is the guy that runs like his hair's on fire. He's an elite senior running back at Oregon. But you can go back to that first time they played, and I really think this Oregon team has evolved. Like that was one of Dante Moore's worst games of the season. He threw two really bad picks. And I think since then you saw them get these injuries, but I think that's a good thing. You saw this offense evolve. Like you saw guys like Malik Benson step up, Kenyon Sadiq stepped up. He's been good all year, but early in the year they were relying so heavily on DeCorion Moore to be a freak freshman receiver. And guys have had to step up, and I think it makes it more dangerous. We might even see Evan Stewart, who's been out all season with a torn Achilles.
I don't think so.
I think he's playing. Like that's crazy.
I would
Even
be
if he
surprised
just
to see him at full capacity.
not full capacity, but I think he's going to get on the field. And going back defensively, this Oregon defense is a lot different than Alabama. Like up front, Mateo Uegalege, Tiatum Tuodo.
Yeah.
I'm just also struggling with names here. Like every guy on this Bryce
It's whatever's in your coffee cup, Johnny.
It's Dylan Thieneman. Like all these guys are just studs on this defense. And, a lot of them are transfers. So the whole year, you've seen them really just like struggling to mold. That first Indiana game, you did see them struggle. And now they're finally all together. And they're playing just really, really good football. And the thing about Alabama had so much struggle against Indiana because they're so one-dimensional. Like they can't run the ball. And we've said that all year. Whereas Oregon can run the ball. Oregon can run the ball behind this offensive line. So I think the fact that they're two-dimensional is going to help them in this game. I don't know. Nothing against Indiana because this Indiana offense is so clinical, so surgical.
Yeah.
But I think Oregon has the talent to meet them. Signetti's a psycho, but guess what? So is Dan Lanning. I've seen his eyes. That guy's crazy.
Yeah, dude looks like he needs a vacation.
Dude, both these guys are psychos. I'm so excited for this game. You've seen the mental warfare. They're all like being way too nice to each other, like just giving each other compliments.
They're probably
like,
ready to rip each other's hair out.
Yeah, like absolutely like insane. So I'm very excited for this game. I'm going with my Ducks, Grateful Ducks. Let's go.
So yeah, it's gonna be elite. So I have a text from Keith that I would like to read word for word for our haters picks of the week. And he said, and I quote, "My only pick for the weekend is a small 2-team parlay. Indiana money line and Ole Miss alternate spread plus 10.5. It pays plus 100. So spend 10, win 10. Vegas moved Oregon from +4 to +3.5, even though all the money coming in is on the Indiana. That's reverse line movement and is sketchy as hell, but I don't see Oregon winning this game. Hoosiers 24, Oregon 17. I'm going to also pick Ole Miss to win outright. Sprinkle a little same game parlay on Lacey to score 2+ touchdowns and Ole Miss to win in the over on 52.5. Give me the Rebels 31-24. I think it's bold, Keith, that you think Miami's going to score 24 points. I don't see it. I don't see, that offense has done nothing, even in the playoffs. That's, they scored 24 against Ohio State, including 7 points in the last 8 seconds, 80 seconds, whatever it may. But I don't see Miami scoring enough to be able to keep with Ole Miss.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I agree with what you said. I'll read a text from Matt Pittman right now, so we can go both haters. He goes, got some super due rebound picks. Just want to say I went 0-3 last week, which is just as hard to do as 3-0. Which
it is. He's not wrong.
Okay. He's not
opposite
wrong.
Charlie.
He loves Ole Miss plus 3.5, Oregon plus 3.5. In parentheses, sprinkle the money line on the Ducks. Miami, Ole Miss under 52.5. Oregon, Indiana 48 under 48.5. I agree with all those. I'm going Oregon money line. I'm also going Oregon, Indiana over. I like that over. I think they both.
I like the over too. I don't see a world in which Indiana doesn't score more than 35 points. Sorry, doesn't score less than 35 points, Johnny.
No, I don't know about that. But I do like Miami Ole Miss under. 52.5 is crazy line for that.
Yeah. No, that is. So that's what, 27-25, essentially?
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't see Miami score that much. I don't know if I see Ole Miss scoring that much on this Miami defense. Like, I was so high on Ohio State's offense, and Miami made them look so suburban this whole game.
Yeah. No, I think you're spot on. I think this is an incredibly fun, unpredictable playoffs. Is what we asked for. I don't think in a million years I would have predicted these four teams to be in the semifinals. And that
That's the
makes it
best part.
electric. Obviously, I'm not happy with some of the results on some of the games, but boy, is it just amazing to see. The fact that Lane Kiffin leaves and his team does better without him. Love to see it.
Oh
Ohio
yeah.
State buys their team. Texas Tech buys their team. They don't do well in the playoffs. A team that really was truly on the bubble until the last 20 minutes in Miami, then suddenly makes it to the semifinals. They're this year's Notre Dame. And, that's undeniable. But it's just going to be an electric week of football.
Oh, unbelievable. I am so pumped.
Well, Johnny, I'll call you and we'll see you for next week for the last week of the year.
Yeah, I'm excited then, and I don't know what we're gonna do after. Maybe just talk portal, maybe a little college wrestling. I don't know, but
Yeah,
we got to keep
portal,
talking.
college wrestling, maybe talk about fashion trends and video games. I don't know. The world's our oyster.
Maybe just alternate Stranger Things reality. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna go cry. I'm very, very upset. I'm distraught. I'm emotional. I'm not gonna emotionally eat, despite what some of the listeners may think. I'm
Wow.
not gonna do that. Yep, I'm gonna stay strong on my diet. You know what they say. It's like most New Year's resolutions don't go past January 6th. Not me. January 7th, still at it. For our listeners who like to
Awesome.
bet, I guess we'll share one thing. Currently, Johnny and I will be running both a 5K and a half marathon this year. The line between our times has not quite been released yet. We're leaning towards 19 minutes for a 5K. We have not created a line for a half marathon. I'm taking Johnny on the 5K, truthfully, with how training's going. I ain't as good as I once was, but Johnny, there, same goes to you.
Yeah, no. I'm definitely not in the shape I used to be in, but we'll see. The 19th is gonna be
It'll
fun.
be on my home turf, which will be important because I know the course really well in the hills.
19th is
And
gonna get in my head because I'm gonna think I got to get out fast. So it's
yeah, no,
gonna,
it's kind
yeah.
of crazy to think that you get to run 50% faster than me, no, 100% faster than me, and I still would win the coverage, which is
We'll
crazy.
see. We'll see. We'll
We
see.
will,
You know, we
Johnny.
might have
Have
to
a great time, and I
tweet
will.
this.
I'll talk to you more next week.
Awesome. See you later, Patch.